50,000 milligrams a day for a week, 40,000 for the next week, 30,000 for the next week. Welcome back to the channel, Roy Ones. I feel amazing. Why? I'm alive, baby, I'm alive. So let's get right into it. Why, how did I pick my particular primary care physician? It's very simple. It's some rules that I have for you to be my primary care physician. One is you have to be current on the new information and knowledge that's out there, reading those double-blind studies. You have to be aware of the new technology out here, like peptides that actually do a world of good for people. You have to be a holistic minded doctor, meaning take into account the whole body, understand about some herbs and some other modalities, so I don't have to go and take a pharmaceutical pill that's made from oil products most of the time, that have 1,000 negative side effects, which is really not a side effect. If you take it and it causes something, it is what it does. So the whole word side effect is a little tricky at times too. But every doctor is not like that. Some doctors are in prehistoric times with their information. Let me give you an example. I interview a lot of doctors. I only put like 1 or 2 on this channel. But one of the doctors I interviewed, I asked a very simple question. What is it that you consider constipated? And how do you gauge people's regularities in terms of going to the bathroom doing it? Number 2. He said, well, this is how I do it. If they go to the bathroom twice a month, I consider that normal for them. The only way I even start to interrogate it is if they break that pattern and maybe go once a month. And that's what he would consider to be normal. I said, now that's absurd to me. Now, I didn't say that to him, but that's what I was feeling because I was very respectful, as I always am. So basically, we're eating 3 meals a day, probably snacking in between 2. What's happening to the rest of that food? Where is it going? It's being stuck in your colon if you're not going. You're reabsorbing the toxins into your bloodstream. That's a recipe for disaster. So that's what I mean by you need to have a doctor that's up to current information and is not way back in the days, not really understanding some of the basic principles of health. This particular doctor, Dr. Anamhija, hopefully I didn't butcher her last name, is amazing. And she fit those particular qualifications that I look for. Now, when I called her and I made an appointment, she asked me, what do I want from her? And I said, well, basically, I want to do a battery of tests. I want to find out everything I possibly can about my body and how it's operating. She said, okay, well, send me a blood test, the most current blood test that you have. I sent it to her. The next day, she called me back and said, this is irrelevant. It does nothing for her, which was mind-blowing to me because I was saying, well, if it does nothing for you, how did the other doctors really evaluate me? Every doctor is different, of course, but it did raise some suspicions in my head about the other doctors and the information they was giving me. So she told me exactly what test to take. I went to go take the test. I couldn't take it in New York. I had to drive to a different state to take this test, which was mind-boggling in itself. New York, boy, oh boy. But I take the test, she receives the text, she calls me back in like 2 days. She said, LeVard, if you were in my office, I would stick you in the arm with 50,000 milligrams of vitamin D3 immediately. Your vitamin D levels are so low that it's insane. So on a scale from 30 to 100, my vitamin D3 level was 6. She said, this is probably the cause of most of the issues that you have been experiencing lately. So what I want you to do is take 50,000 milligrams a day for a week, 40,000 for the next week, 30,000 for the next week every day, and keep on going down until you get to like 5 or 7. Now, this may seem like a lot to people, but I had to bring my levels up, and I did exactly what she told me to do, and I do feel way, way better. And I did all of that before I even went to go see her. That's right, I did go to see her. She is in Washington, a spot called Yelm. Had to fly to Seattle. Finally in the airport. And it wasn't an issue for me because she said, so what do you want to do? I said, I'll fly down there. Flew down there really quick. And when I was down there, we did a whole slew of tests. She did a test on my brain functions, my neurological functions, my arteries, my heart, heavy metals test. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I'm going to talk about it in the next video because I don't want this one to be too long. But the main thing I want to leave for you is be very mindful of the doctors that you have given you advice because they are advisors. Be careful, they're advisors. They're supposed to help you. And they may not be the best person to give you advice on your current situation.